built his whole game on spectacle, and spectacle has no foundation.
Last night, the whole world watched a man get stopped by his own ambition.
The showman built for the crowd. I built for the note. One of us is still standing. Follow, and I will show you how the note works. I am not in the cage. I am not performing. I am signing a note that will pay me every month for 20 years.
Look at this place. Absolutely electric. I'm the best in the world. There is no doubt about it now. Who's next?
Secured promissory notes. No need for all the flash. Just receive structured income.
I wish I invested in notes.
Welcome back to the Mobile Mailbox Money Mastermind. I'm here today at the Family Bank here with Silvercrest Opportunity Fund, Mobile Mailbox Money, and Win Mobile Homes. We'll have an action-packed meeting today. We'll go through a couple of different types of transactions. But before we start today, I want to talk about this room, not the pipeline, not the numbers, the room, because I think most people misunderstand what a mastermind actually is. They think it's a meeting, a presentation, a pitch, a better coffee. It is none of those things. A mastermind is a room where information changes hands before the market catches up. Every significant wealth transfer in history happened the same way. A small group of people understood something early while everyone outside the room was still forming an opinion. The railroad barons had rooms like this. The early bankers had rooms like this. The families who built dynasties on paper, they had rooms exactly like this. The only thing that has changed is who gets a seat. So let me tell you what this room knows the market knows that the market has not priced in yet. Number one, there's a housing crisis in this country, and it is structural, not cyclical. Builders are not being financed to build affordable inventory. The supply gap widens every quarter, and demand for affordable housing has never decreased because the need for a roof is not a market trend. It is the floor of human need. Number two, banks abandoned the most reliable borrower in America. A family financing an affordable manufactured home protects that payment above almost every obligation in their budget, not because of fine print, because their children sleep inside the collateral. Conventional lenders walked away from this asset class anyway, not because it falls or fails, because it does not fit their box. Number three, somebody built the machine the banks refuse to build. That is what Win Mobile Homes is. 8 years, hundreds of transactions, a licensed Arizona operation that sources the home, completes the rehab, navigates the community approval, underwrites the borrower, and originates the seller finance note compliantly, transaction by transaction. The note is the output. The operation is the asset. And number four, the part that matters for everyone sitting here, Silvercrest Opportunity Fund is where accredited investors position behind that machine. First-Lien paper, contractual monthly income, real collateral starting at a $50,000 minimum as a Reg D 506C accredited investor fund. In the last 60 days, this platform has closed roughly about $1 million in notes. The pipeline is active. The families keep coming because they have nowhere else to go for financing. The problem funds the solution. Now, here is why I opened this room today instead of just the numbers, because everyone is just described because everything I just described is public. The housing data is public. The lending gap is public. None of this is hidden, and yet almost nobody acts on it. Why? Because information does not create wealth positioning. Because information does not create wealth, positioning does. The market will eventually understand what this room understands today. Institutional capital will eventually move into this space. It always does. And when it does, the term will compress and the window will look obvious in hindsight. So appreciate you all being here today. I'm Alden Guajardo, president of Silvercrest Opportunity Fund. We've got a special guest here today speaking on behalf of Directed IRA, Mr. Nate Hare. I've got my cohorts, Sean and Sunny. Nate, maybe if you could just introduce yourself for the viewers that don't know you.
Yeah, I'm Nate Hare. I'm the vice president of a local company here in Phoenix, Directed IRA, and we allow people to use retirement accounts to invest in real estate, and that's what I'll be talking about today. And by the way, I'm usually the guy with the third best suit jacket at any ASREA meeting, next to Sean and Alden.
Yeah, been to multiple associations, note investment conferences, and alternative investment conferences, and we'll detail, an event actually coming up here shortly. But also we have Sean and Sonny. Sean, maybe if you could just introduce yourself for the viewers that don't know you. Looks like you're on mute. You may have to...
Hey, everybody, this is Sean Gibson. I'm with Mobile Homes and Mobile Mailbox Money. I'm actually sorry, it's kind of echoey. I'm here at one of our projects, but I'm a note specialist. I'm also an investor here. I didn't call myself a jack of all trades. Obviously, with me, I help our investors buy our notes. I also help with Mobile Homes acquire mobile manufactured homes. So sorry for the echo. I apologize. I'm in a project.
Out in the field, we're not just an origination operator. We're buying homes, we're selling homes. Sean's out in the weeds right now, figuring out if a deal is to be done or walking a rehab. Having boots on the ground in an operation is of utmost importance. And Sonny Finkel, Sonny, if you could just introduce yourself for the viewers that don't know you.
Sure. My name is Sonny Finkel, and I am the Investor Relations Specialist for Wynn Mobile Homes and the Silvercrest Opportunity Fund. I'm also the Loan Compliance Coordinator for Wynn Mobile Homes, and I help the sales agents usher their files to the closing table so that we can generate more notes for you all to invest in. I'm also operating the chat, so if you have any questions or any comments, you're welcome to put them in the chat, and I will read them out loud and address your questions in the chat. If it's something specific that you don't want to talk about in front of the group, you're welcome to message me privately and I will still answer. And I'm a personal fan of Nate at Directed, so I'm happy to have you today, Nate. Welcome.
A lot done online by Nate Hare and Directed IRA, a lot of education, free gems at the end of the day to be able to figure this stuff out. You got to know somebody that knows what they're doing, and to have Nate here today is a special treat for all of you viewing here today for free. We are streaming live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So just be aware, Nate, I think you have a little presentation for us today to kind of educate individuals about where there's an opportunity to have tax-deferred or tax-free investment strategies at your utility. Nate, appreciate you being here today.
Yeah, appreciate you having me. And I kind of took one of my longer presentations and funneled it down to 15, 20 minutes. So bear with me. If I go fast, don't worry. You guys can have my contact information, or you can find some of our longer form videos that kind of detail, certain things about self-directed IRAs. So I'm just going to jump into it and share my screen, and then we could take questions at the end. Let me know if you can see that, Alden.
Nate Hare's sharing his screen. It shows a black screen here.
Oh, a black screen? Oh, hold on one sec. Maybe
there it goes. Perfect.
Oh, now it's in? Okay. Just took a while.
For all you viewing here, just type your questions, type them in the chat, and we'll go by one at the very end for Nate to be able to have his time here.
Okay, awesome. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, what I learned back in 2012 that I had no idea even existed, which is the opportunity to invest in real estate through your retirement plan. And I don't care if you're 4 years old or 60 years old. This is helpful information for you guys if you're interested in investing in real estate. One of the things that I would say is the biggest cost to you as an investor is taxes. And one of the easiest and legal ways to eliminate taxes from your life, whether you're investing in stocks or real estate, is by understanding how to invest in real estate through accounts that are not taxed, like our IRAs and old 401ks. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how that works. My background has been in real estate ever since 2004. Out of college, I wanted to be a real estate investor. I didn't really know what that meant. I went to real estate school. That didn't really teach me how to be an investor, taught me how to be an agent, but through that journey, I ended up being a residential loan officer. So that's where I got my first taste of real estate investing through the lending side. I still lend actively today. But in 2012, I was recruited by a company out of Houston, Texas that said, Nate, we want you to come on board and teach more people how to invest in real estate inside of a retirement plan. And I went, hold on one second. I have a retirement plan at Northwestern Mutual, and it has a mutual fund in it. This was the first time I had ever heard that my retirement plan could own real estate, not just a stock or a mutual fund. And the thing about it is at that time, I had 17 rental properties under my belt through my personal investments in my LLCs. But I realized pretty quickly that even though those investments were making me money, I was paying a lot of taxes back to the IRS because all of that income on my real estate investments was hitting me, a living, breathing, tax-paying individual. I had no idea that those same rental properties or some of those properties could have been owned in a retirement plan that doesn't pay taxes. And I think back to how much money I would have saved personally by just throwing money away to taxes on extra money I didn't need. So from 2012, I realized I wasn't the only one that didn't understand that this didn't exist. So I've been pretty passionate about just getting out and educating investors on what it is, how it works. And I've been privy to see tens of thousands of investments through our clients in real estate. And even the most creative investors have leveraged self-directed accounts to invest in real estate completely tax-free. So if you ever looked at the tax code, when it comes to what the IRS allows us to own inside of a retirement plan, and when I say retirement plan, I mean any plan you might have had at a job you worked at, 401k, a TSP, a TRS, a 403b, IRA, Roth IRA, traditional IRA. The IRS doesn't really dictate what we invest in. The IRS only says we're not allowed to invest in life insurance contracts and collectibles. Those are the only two restricted investments from being held inside of a retirement plan. 98% of our American retirement wealth is invested in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and what we call traditional investments. The reason why they're invested so heavily in stocks and bonds is because most people don't even know they have the opportunity to invest in things like real estate, land, precious metals, cryptocurrency, private businesses, energy, natural resources, mineral rights, gas, tax lien certificates, promissory notes. These are all what we call alternative investments. And alternative investments can be owned inside of a retirement plan. You just have to work through a company like Directed IRA that will hold the assets inside your retirement plan. So at the root of it all, Fidelity and Directed IRA are exactly the same in the sense that we're licensed to hold assets inside of our clients' retirement plans. Where we differ is Fidelity is also a licensed securities broker. They're in the business of selling investments. So when you have your IRA or your old 401k with Fidelity, they only let you hold what they sell because they make money on those investments. If you want to invest in anything outside of the public market, what we call private investments, you just have to use a licensed custodian like Directed IRA to facilitate the buying and the selling of the investments. But we don't sell you the investment. We don't have a list of investments that we're trying to sell you. You tell us what the investment's going to be, and our investments team will go out and purchase the investment using the funds inside of your retirement plan. That way you keep all the tax benefits your retirement plan gets. Now, when you talk about real estate, there's two major forms of income, rental income and capital gains. When you own real estate inside of an IRA doesn't pay any taxes on the rental income, any taxes on the capital gains. Oh, and by the way, if you're investing in a note like I like to do, your IRA pays no taxes on the interest income. So if you think about that for a second, there's a huge pendulum shift, especially with lending. I only lend money out of my self-directed Roth and my self-directed HSA, which I'll show you here in a second. Because I know when I lend money personally, that's treated as normal income to me. It might still be a great deal, but if I'm going to invest passively in real estate, I like to use accounts that aren't taxed because my money grows much faster and further with Uncle Sam out of the equation. And that's what we allow investors to do, is use self-directed retirement plans to invest in the investments they choose, not us. Now, here's the types of accounts we have here at Directed IRA. I'm not going to spend too much time on these accounts because I want to show you some examples, but some of you might have these accounts at a Fidelity or Charles Schwab right now, right? We have self-directed traditional IRAs, which include rollover IRAs. If you ever had a 401k at a job you worked at and you left that job, you probably know your employer made you move that out and it rolled into an IRA somewhere. Well, if you have an IRA at Fidelity or Charles Schwab from an old 401k, those funds could be moved to a traditional IRA here and be invested into real estate or whatever alternative investment you choose. I personally am a big fan of the Roth IRA, and I'll show you why. Roth IRAs are probably the greatest wealth building vehicle on the planet. I have a 9-year-old with a $75,000 Roth IRA. Her grandmother is a real estate investor and has started real estate investing through her granddaughter's Roth IRA to create a massive head start for her granddaughter. Anybody can have a Roth IRA. You just have to have some sort of earned income. But when you think about a Roth IRA, how it grows, if you have a Roth IRA for 5 years and you're above the age of 59 and a half, your Roth IRA is tax-free for the rest of your life. You can live tax-free off the distributions of your Roth IRA, whether it's invested in stocks or invested in real estate. So I'll give you a quick example. I have a client in Houston, Texas. She has 12 rental properties owned not by her, the person, not through her LLC. She owns 12 rental properties inside of her self-directed Roth. Every month, the renters of those 12 properties pay rent to her Roth, which pays no taxes on that rental income. And now that she's over 59 and a half, she just gets to take tax-free distributions monthly from those rents, and her account grows every single year because all the homes are appreciating. So she's living off about $300,000 of tax-free income by just owning the properties in her Roth and not owning them personally as a taxpayer. It is a great way to fund your retirement. But you got to get there. You got to do some deals to get there. Now, we also have self-directed employer plans. So if you're self-employed, you can self-direct SEP IRAs or solo 401ks. And we even have non-retirement plans that can be self-directed where you actually get to use the money the day the account makes it, which are your self-directed health savings accounts and self-directed Coverdell ESAs that you set up for your kids, your son, your daughter, or your grandkids. But these accounts, all 6 of them, by definition, are tax-exempt trusts. They pay no tax on income. And I'm not saying you should only invest in these accounts, but I say you should have some of your investments, if you're a real estate professional or you're investing in real estate, you should have some of your investments inside of accounts that don't pay taxes. If you do everything as a taxpayer, you're just going to spin your wheels to try to get to retirement with your silent partner, Uncle Sam, taking 30 to 40% of your income on each and every deal. These accounts will let you get Uncle Sam out of the equation. Now, we do make it really easy for clients to self-direct. I just took a screenshot of our client portal. I actually just did a couple investments this week. Super easy to get your IRA or 401k dollars out on a real estate investment or a private loan. Once you open an account, once you fund it, and I'll talk about how you don't have to have hundreds of thousands of dollars in your account either to make these things run. But once you have an account open and funded, you get access to a client portal that looks like this. You log into your client portal when you're ready to invest. You pick the investment that you're looking for us to process, and then we're going to ask for some supporting documentation or something like this. If you're investing in a rental property or you're buying fee simple real estate, it'll ask you, do we need to send an earnest money out of the account? Or did you already do that and we're just ready to close? At the end of the day, what we're doing is no different than what Fidelity does. When you log online and on your Fidelity account and you want to buy Walmart stock with your IRA, Fidelity will exchange your IRA asset of cash for an asset of Walmart stock. And they actually hold the stock certificate. You don't see it because they do this all in the background. But they don't send the money to you to go buy it yourself. And that's exactly what we do at Directed IRA. If you want to use, let's say, your Roth IRA to buy a piece of real estate, we don't give you the money as a distribution to go buy it yourself. We ask you to tell us what the investment is. We'll tell you what documents we need to purchase the property. And then we don't hold stock certificates, but we hold deeds. Okay, here's an example of how somebody bought a piece of real estate in Jackson, Mississippi, using their Roth IRA. Now, I blanked the client's name out there, but it's pretty simple. You're still doing the legwork on the property you want owned in your IRA. The only difference is you're not the buyer on the contract. Your IRA is the buyer on the contract. Your IRA is a trust. It has a name to it. And if you have an IRA here at Directed IRA, a name on the account would be Directed Trust Company for the benefit of Nate Hare Roth IRA. That's the legal buyer. Okay. So once you get a property under contract, you use that name as the buyer. We sign the contract. We close on the property with your IRA funds, and then we hold the deed. And here's the warranty deed, just showing ownership, Directed Trust Company for the benefit of client name Roth IRA. Once your IRA owns the property, all the income goes into the IRA, tax exempt or tax free. If your IRA sells the property, all the capital gains remain untaxed. That way you can rinse and repeat and grow money in a completely tax-free manner. Now, here's what I love about real estate in an IRA is you do not need all cash. There's banks that have loans for IRAs. That's something I didn't even know when I was in the lending space. One of the common lenders you see at Azria, Boomerang Capital, they have a loan product for your IRA. So your IRA can just come in with a down payment, right, and leverage money from a bank. That's not something you get in the stock market. So yes, we can buy property with debt, or we can just use creative means to grow a small IRA. Here's an example. Well, let me first talk about some ways that you can leverage. I'll skip this because I'm running short. Here's a client of mine, again, in Houston, Texas, because I spent 9 years there. Now, he waited all the way until his mid-50s to set up a Roth IRA. He had never had a retirement plan. So this does go to show you, it doesn't matter how old you are, you can always start late. But for those of us who are not 55, start early. Because if you start doing these deals early in life and grow this money completely tax-free, you'll have millions of dollars in a Roth IRA that will carry you all the way through retirement. So this is a client of mine, John. He's a real estate investor in Houston, Texas. He had $10,000 total in his Roth IRA. That's it. He made 2 years contributions. And the way that he came about this investment is he was kind of known in the area for John was the guy that helped solve real estate problems. So everybody in the neighborhood, it was kind of a rough neighborhood in Houston, the Third Ward, if you guys are familiar with that area. He was an investor in Third Ward, so a lot of clients or a lot of homeowners would come to him if they had a problem where they were facing foreclosure. So a lady approached him one day, knocked on his door. She was in her 80s. She had not paid her property taxes, and the county assessor was going to foreclose on her property. Now, John went and looked at the property and realized she had turned it into a hoarder house. The property was in real bad condition. It really just needed to be demoed. He didn't even understand how she lived in the property. But what he did is he decided to do something creative in his Roth IRA because he didn't really want to buy the property and have to have her move because she didn't have anywhere to move. So he did, and again, this is just a creative example. He did a real estate option for this lady. An option is a one-way contract you can have with a homeowner that just gives you or your IRA the first right to buy the property with no obligation to buy the property. So it's a way you can control real estate in exchange for consideration. So what he offered to this lady is he had $10,000 in his Roth. He said, I can give you the $10,000 out of my Roth to help you pay your property taxes and stay in the home if you give my Roth IRA the first option to buy your property over 2 years. And I give you 2 years to stay in the house until you figure things out. So his Roth IRA owned an option on real estate. It didn't own the real estate. Fast track. 2 years later, she decides to vacate the property and her family puts her in a home that she needed to be in. And what he did is he exercised his option and took title to a hoarder house in Houston for $10,000. Now, here's where he got creative. He had a development company of his own, but it's prohibited for you to use your own services to work on property owned in your retirement plan. So all he did is he went to a friend of his who also had a development company and said, hey, my Roth IRA owns this hoarder house in the Third Ward. I've already scoped it out, and I think we can bulldoze this property and build 2 new townhomes and sell it retail for a pretty decent profit. But I can't do the sweat equity myself because it's my retirement account. So would you be willing to do a joint venture with my IRA as the owner, where you bring in all the construction costs and the sweat equity, bulldoze the property, build 2 new townhomes, and we'll split the profit 50-50 when we sell both units. Well, this one deal, his very first deal with his self-directed Roth, netted $297,653 to his Roth IRA, completely tax-free. Had he done that investment himself, personally, he would have lost 40% just to taxes. Now he owns, with that 297, now he's diversified into investments into private banks and all sorts of things. So this is a way you can get real creative with a small amount of money and turn large profits in your Roth IRA by just leveraging your relationships and the people that you know. Now, here's the common way that a lot of our investors like to invest, and this is why it's good to have mobile mailbox money on the show, is because I like real estate, but I don't have time to find my own real estate. I don't have time to do what John just did, but I do have time to look at deals from here or there and decide if I want my IRA to just be a lender to somebody else who finds property. You can lend money out of your retirement plan to flippers, whoever it is. You can't loan money to yourself because that's prohibited, but anybody who's not related to you directly, you can lend money out of your retirement plan to them and get healthy income that's untaxed. This is a common deal that I do. So this is another deal in Houston. Real estate flipper found this property. That's not the real property. But the property that he showed me was vacant for 2 years. Nobody knew who the owner was. He ended up finding the owner who was it was an inherited property to a grandson that didn't even know he owned it. Long story short, the investor negotiated that he can buy this property for $75,000 and it had an ARV of about $215,000. So he needed quick money. Problem was conventional banks wouldn't loan on this property based on the condition, and hard money lender was going to take 2 weeks. I said, I can give you the money in 3 days out of my IRA. We just have to draft a promissory note. So I, representing my IRA, negotiated the terms. I said, would you be okay paying 2% upfront and 12% on an 18-month loan? Because all he needed it for was to just take over the property and rehab it. And I even loaned him money out of my Roth and my HSA to do the rehab. So I loaned him 100% of the purchase price, 100% of the rehab, because there was so much equity in the property. I wasn't scared to lose the property in foreclosure because my Roth and HSA would have ended up with the equity. So he said, that's totally fine. We drafted a promissory note. My Roth and HSA were listed as the lender. Okay? And I got mailbox money, right? Pardon the pun. I got money every single month from the borrower paying interest payments to my Roth and to my HSA. And my Roth and HSA just owned what's called a fractionalized note. 2 lenders on 1 note. 1 first lien position, secured by real estate. Oh, and by the way, my Roth and HSA pay absolutely 0 taxes. Now, the thing I like about loaning to flippers just personally is I like to get my money back fairly quickly, because then I'm not only making tax-free income to those accounts, but now I'm compounding my income. And if you guys ever look at that S-curve of how compounding interest works, put it on steroids when you have compounding interest untaxed. You could take $100,000 in an IRA and grow it to about $1.4 million over about 15 years by just compounding your interest and compounding it and keeping the money moving. And I leverage the experience of somebody else. So, and that's what I like about mobile mailbox money. And I'm always asking Alden when I see him at the events, I'm like, hey, what are your best deals right now? And I'm telling you right now, Alden, once I get money freed up on some of my other deals, I'm coming to you because I want to buy one of these notes that you guys have. Because I love just sitting back and somebody else doing the work who's much a better investor than me, but all the income just goes to my retirement account, and I just sit those puppies on the shelf and let them grow off the sweat equity of somebody else. But I also like that I get to have the opportunity to help local investors while at the same time making healthy income to my retirement plan. So that's all I got, Alden. I hope that was helpful. I hope I didn't go too fast, but I'll take questions from anybody. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Okay, me first.
Yeah.
I first want to know if you're adopting, because I would like to have an IRA with $75,000 in it.
Can I tell you the story real quick on how a 9-year-old has a $75,000 Roth IRA? First of all, she's not the real estate investor. Her grandmother is. And her grandmother does these real estate meetups. It's like her and her girlfriends, the girl she plays bingo with. And she has a meetup at local coffee shops, and she made a book. She wrote a book, and it had her 12 strategies for investing in real estate. She put her granddaughter on the cover of the book, paid granddaughter a modeling fee for doing that. Coincidentally, the modeling fee was the max contribution to a Roth IRA that year. So grandma's smart. Grandma gave her 4-year-old earned income so that she can put $5,000 in her granddaughter's Roth IRA, and then granddaughter's Roth IRA and grandmother's Roth IRA partnered on some land in Sealy, Texas. They subdivided the land, sold off the lots, and that $5,000 contribution turned the 4-year-old into a $75,000 Roth IRA by the time she was 9.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yep.
Okay, my next question is, when you allow lending out of the IRA, will the IRA lend on manufactured housing?
It's really up to the IRA owner. The IRA owner can lend on manufactured housing, commercial property. I mean, you can lend to somebody buying property on the moon if you wanted to. So it's really up to the IRA owner to decide who and what they lend on. We don't have any restrictions on doing that. As long as you're not loaning it to yourself and you're loaning it to somebody else. I've seen loans to businesses too. I mean, you can make a loan on almost anything. And that's the cool thing about self-direction is there's no restrictions on what you're allowed or who you're allowed to loan to other than yourself.
So in the beginning, when I said that I'm a fan, it's because I am getting a lot more clients these days, more and more all the time, that are buying notes from me, that are using their IRA. And a lot of times it gets really frustrating for me as the processor because I have such a hard time dealing with IRA companies that are not up to speed on note investing. And I end up having to educate them. You know, they're asking me for a deed and I tell them there isn't a deed, there's a title. Do you not understand? You know, I end up having to educate the company on what their job is. And the review of the purchase takes so long that we can't hold the note that long. We directed, like you said, a 3-day turnaround. You all understand the process of note investing. So every note investor that calls me, I ask them if they're with Directed, and if they're not, I ask them to switch.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I mean,
somebody who buys regularly from me, I want to deal with somebody who's easier to work with than you guys certainly.
Yeah. Self-directed IRA companies are like dry cleaners, right? Some do great, and then some just shrink your sweater every single time you bring it to them. But it's because a lot of companies, they don't understand or they focus on real estate. Some are like specialties in minerals or precious metals. We are like, I would say our bread and butter is real estate. We're owned and operated by tax attorneys that understand real estate, that like real estate. I invest in real estate. So our investments team gets a lot of real estate education. So they're very savvy about what a real estate investment is or isn't. So that's why you get good service from them.
Awesome.
Any final questions? Obviously average setup time's about 3 weeks to exit a Fidelity account, get set up and probably process documents. So there is some time from new people that may be on here, with capital in an account like that, wanting to custodianize. How quickly is that process, Nate? About 3 weeks, something like that?
So it's actually pretty quick. If you already have an IRA, it's Fidelity or Charles Schwab, we can move the money in 3 to 5 business days. So they're really quick when it's an IRA. If it's a 401k and it's still with a job that you worked at or you just left a job, 401k administrators or 401k distributions take longer. So if it's a 401k, usually that's when you see it take 3 or 4 weeks. But if it's an IRA and a large custodian, we can get it in less than a week.
We have a question in the chat and it says, good afternoon, everyone. Hey, Nate, are there any IRA custodian fees, servicing fees, or other costs that investors should expect beyond the investment amount?
Yes. So we do have fees, and we don't charge fees like a Charles Schwab or Fidelity. We don't take commissions or broker fees because we're not selling investments. So we basically have transaction fees. If you need us to do something, we have a fee for it, for processing investments and holding assets in your account. So if you use this code, mobile mailbox, I'm going to put it in the chat.
Boom.
Mobile mailbox. This code gets you $150 off your first year custodial fee. This is our only recurring fee. We have a recurring fee just to hold assets inside of your account. It helps us do the tax reporting and all the staff that we have here to help get your investments funded. So the normal custodial fee per year is $495. If you use mobile mailbox as the referrer, not only do you get a $150 discount off the first year, you also get it indefinitely for $395 a year instead of $495. And then once you invest the account, when we have to buy or sell an investment, there's a $50 processing fee that comes with that. So not much, minus any wire fees. So we're really inexpensive if you think about it. A couple $100 a year gets you on your way.
The next question says, hello, Nate. If I wanted to invest around $150 up to $300,000 from my IRA, could I diversify that amount across multiple notes instead of putting it into just one?
100%. And I would advise that that's probably smart of you to diversify multiple notes. And I thought you were going to ask another question, but I'll say this too. You can have as many IRAs as you want. So if you have an IRA at Fidelity or Charles Schwab, by no means do you have to close that account permanently. Most of my clients, probably 95% of my clients, have an IRA at Fidelity that holds their stocks and bonds. I'm not against those investments at all. But they also have a second or third IRA here, directed IRA, that holds their note investments or their real estate investments. And you just move money back and forth between us as custodians, depending on where you need to invest it at that time. I have a client that's got 35 different IRAs parked all over the place with all sorts of crazy stuff in it. So I think that, yes, it's advisable to diversify into alternative investments. But even in the alternative investment space, I think it's very smart of you, Alexander, to diversify in different assets in that retirement plan, whether it's notes or real estate.
You know, alternative investments are being Googled now more than ever. And to have a partner like this, like Directed IRA, that's established in the business on here this meeting today is worth its weight in gold. You know, hopefully you grabbed a little value from today, as well as, answered maybe a question that you have. I think a lot of people just don't know what they don't know. They don't know that they could do this type of investment strategy within their IRA. So all great benchmarks and points. Nate put his actual URL in the chat, directedira.com. I think I'm pretty sure I'd included it in the StreamYard. So that'll be across on the description if you're viewing here online. But again, we're here today at the live deal flow market here with Silvercrest Opportunity Fund and Mobile Mailbox Money. You know, what kind of transactions do we have coming down the pipeline here? We've got a few to talk about today. Lot 195, actually the buyer borrower did not get approved. Not every transaction ends up getting through the approval processes. You know, we don't just sell a home to anyone. It's important to risk mitigate as we seller finance these transactions. But this property was actually a home that we partnered with Griffin Roofing and Construction. So as we develop our relationship with that partnership, we'll bring more deals with a bow of investment for you to be able to buy even out of your IRA, solo 401k, or really just your LLC. This property was pending at 125 with 10K down at $115,000 unpaid balance. Performing seller finance loan stabilized the non-construction credit asset that potentially was coming available. But this home is still up for sale. We'll likely get a new buyer borrower here real soon. So we detailed that last week and just wanted to kind of, obviously talk about our applications and how we disqualify people if deemed necessary. I walked a construction credit property lot. Let me see if I get to the lot number. Lot 265 in Tempe Cascade. This is a 5-bedroom, 2-bath with an after rehab value of $125,000. Got my notes all mixed up here. Tempe Cascade, lot 265 at currently pending within our acquisition process. So we'll buy this, put some new finishes on it, likely check electrical and plumbing to make sure it's a risk mitigated asset, and then put it back for sale as a private lender, right? Maybe you're not so much a note investor and you want a short term, maybe a 1-year interest-only payment at $100,000. This pays $833.33 a month for a 1-year term, paid monthly, or it could potentially escalate that rate on a deferred rate of return. The likelihood of this property going pending sometime within the next 60 to 90 days is high because of the demand of this area, as well as it doesn't really need all that much rehab. They did granite in the kitchens and the bathroom. They have half the kitchen actually rehabbed, or I think that's another property now that I think about it. But good rehab's been done on this property. Really just takes them to move out, paint the property, and ultimately put it back up for sale. It's got a storage shed at $100,000 first lien, only lien on that property. We drafted at a 1-year term out of convenience, so we don't have to tap you multiple times throughout the year. And in exchange for a first lien, only lien on the property at $833.33 a month for a 1-year term. So that's a 5-bedroom family manufactured home that we will get turnkey and seller finance that home. The objective and advantage of a construction loan is getting to the front of the line to inadvertently get a first right of refusal on a seller finance note that would come available. And we seller finance at our agreed rate of 14%. So you would come from the unpaid balance of the construction loan and pay the balance of the unpaid balance of the seller finance note after down payment, right? So say hypothetically this property sold at 135, the buyer borrower put 10,000 down. What does that monthly payment look like real quick?
135
with
with 10,000 down, 125,000 is 1554.40.
So 1554.40. You had $100,000 construction loan on this property, right? Hypothetically, for a 1-year term. The unpaid balance now of the buyer borrower who came in and bought this home at 135. Their unpaid balance is 125, and you came from 100, came to the table with another 25,000 to the unpaid balance of the loan and assigned that position to your LLC upon initial consummation of that transaction. Little complex, but a lot of people talk about, hey, how do I get pref? How do I get to the front of the line? There's not all that many notes that come available. We'd like to bring more to the table, but there's only so many deals to go around at the end of the day. So that puts somebody into a preferred criteria on this specific asset, one note, one investor, right? Non-securitized, you're on that specific asset with a lien position and start earning interest in as little as 30 days. In addition, you have some liquidity potential. This home hypothetically could take up to 6 months to sell, maybe around there or less as we usher it for sale. It could sell quicker, it could sell a little bit longer, but as we strategically price it, you'll get tapped on the shoulder, sometime within the next few months, opposed to writing a full 1-year contract. A little bit more liquidity within this type of transaction being a construction loan. Same thing here, lot 263. We actually own this property already. It's in the Mesa market, currently for sale, and it's turnkey in Ellsworth and Broadway, a Mesa 55 and older community at $50,000, interest only. Just grab my calculator. On a 2-bed, 2-bath double wide for a 1-year term is $416.66 a month for $50,000 on a 1-year term. $416.66 a month paid monthly. So immediately gets interest bearing upon consummation of your wire transfer. In addition to gets you another turnkey component to come up to the unpaid balance of a seller finance loan and ultimately participate in the double-digit interest-bearing contract of a stabilized asset. These construction loans are vacant currently. This property is no longer occupied, but that's kind of the gist of that transaction. That's lot 263. And if you're interested in a specific transaction, put that lot number and your email in the chat. And Sonny, if you see a great question to kind of talk about, feel free to kind of cut me off at any time. But we'll keep trucking along here. That's lot.
I just saw one pop up now.
Let's hear it.
I just saw one pop up now. It says, "Hi Alden, I'm interested in purchasing a note, and someone sent me information about investing through a direct IRA regarding ownership. If I purchase the property or a note through a direct
Sonny, you're breaking up really bad.
For 5 years, possibly transfer or change the ownership to one of my business partners. If so,
I can answer
what
that
would the
question.
process?
Hey, Sonny, you're breaking up really
Are
bad.
there any I
Go ahead,
I
Nate.
can take that question. That seems like an IRA related question.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Yeah. So you can, if you take ownership inside of your retirement plan, you can assign it or sell it to anybody except yourself, your business, your spouse, parents, or kids. So those are what we call disqualified parties. The IRS does not want you self-dealing assets out of your retirement plan to you or your spouse, parents, or kids. Now, you said, can I change ownership to one of my team members? That could get a little gray. I would say if it's a legitimate transaction where your team, one of your team members is going to pay an amount that generates profit to your IRA, then that's perfectly fine. But it can't be any team members that are you, your spouse, parents, or kids. Those are the disqualified people. So it doesn't matter how long you hold it in there too. There's no 5-year seasoning requirement to sell it to somebody else.
Sorry about that, Sonny. You had to mute your mic. You were kind of breaking up a little bit, but feel free to join back anytime. We'll just continue down the way here. So, obviously there's some potential interested parties. Like I said, if you have interest, put an identifier or really just your interest question and email, and we'll get back to you. A couple different staff members happy to help at the end of the day. So that was lot 263 for 50,000. We are now at lot 12. This is a pending seller finance loan that is going through underwriting and actually fulfilling, hopefully, an approval tomorrow. Lot 12 here in Casa de Francisco. We purchased this property, put brand new granite and cabinets, new laminate flooring, painted inside and out, checked all electrical and plumbing, went with a white and gray laminate actually that's seen in, under this dust here. But these are the layout photos of the property, and pending due diligence, obviously someone could participate in this transaction upon closing at $135 with a $10,000 down payment and $125,000 unpaid balance in the next, on the 27th, I think the close date is actually, but as a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, ground set, family manufactured home where the buyer borrower is matching or beating market rent for ownership, the investor for $125,000 makes a $1,554 a month payment for a 20-year term. If you don't have a mortgage calculator, you're going to want to do yourself a service and download that, because it kind of teaches you how to reverse calculate, reverse engineer what a return on investment would look like. And at the end of the day, if you were to do that in an IRA, those numbers really get exponential because obviously the power of compounding interest. So this property is immediately available. Actually, lot 12, lot 1, 2, lot 12. Feel free to type that in the chat. $125,000, a great opportunity for a hedge fund, a private investor who's aggregating family wealth, a family office, to be able to aggregate and ultimately potentially even make a spread on that transaction. Most people don't know, it doesn't have to potentially be your own funds for a transaction like this. Utilizing hypothecation or having an actual attorney draft up the documents for like crowdfunding and things of that nature could potentially take place. But using multiple, even IRAs, and I think Nate could pipe in on that, getting people together to do a transaction.
Yeah, you're speaking my language. So you can partner different IRAs together too on a note. It's actually really easy. You just list multiple names, multiple accounts on. So if you think about maybe you have an account, maybe your spouse has an account, maybe you've got some accounts with your kids or something like that. I partnered on notes with, I partnered on one note with 8 different people's IRAs. I partnered on another note with 14. I wouldn't recommend going as high as 14 because you got a lot of people in the mix. But if you're just using your own accounts, you don't have to, by all means, have 100 and let's say $35,000 in your own IRA, but let's say you've got 50 in yours and 80 in somebody else's, you can bring those two IRAs together and co-own the note. We also have a law firm, KKOS Lawyers. It's our second company. If you're thinking about partnering multiple buckets of money, or you can even partner personal money with your IRA if you do it legally through an entity co-owned by you and your IRA. So our law firm KKOS sets up what's called checkbook control IRA owned LLCs, where you can have an LLC, let's say 50% owned by my Roth and 50% owned by me, the individual. And we both own shares of an LLC, and the LLC is the lender on the note. So there's all sorts of cool ways that you can partner or bring together different retirement accounts, even personal funds, into the same note investment.
Boom. That was lot 12. That's immediately available. It will likely transact next 2 weeks, a week and a half, I think it is, pending their approval processes. You know, what kind of approval processes does a seller finance loan go through? Well, they go through ultimately check boxes to make sure that their credit is up to par, and no past evictions, no open bankruptcies, no past evictions, verifiable income, and hopefully 2 years of tax returns. If no tax returns, you know, we can potentially qualify someone with some bank statements. Sonny, did I miss anything?
Background check.
So no past criminal convictions. You know, that's definitely one step above a qualifier in a single family note. Someone could have a felony and buy a single family property. They could have a eviction and buy a single family property. So that's just a couple extra steps that are taking place in manufactured housing in comparison to single family note transactions. This same note could be hypothecated. You know, say hypothetically you are a non-accredited investor and you are wanting to take a transaction, but not wanting a 20-year term. Well, at $125,000, this same transaction for a 1-year term, interest only, an investor could participate, extend some credit at $125,000 for a 1-year term. It's paying $1,041.66 a month, $1,041.66 a month. I'm sorry, at that $1,041.66 a month for a 1-year term. So opposed to 20-year, you know, holding period of a seller finance note transaction, they get 19 years of liquidity with a 1-year term. Maybe test out the strategy. You know, some people aren't wanting to fully commit to a long-term hold like that. It's completely understandable. They're not a construction private lender. You know, they're wanting a stabilized asset, maybe just a tired landlord, you know, someone that's been paid off, single family, and loves no investments, but wants more liquidity. You know, those are all avatar that fit specific for that strategy via hypothecation, which means to pledge an asset in order to garnish capital investment. We pledge this lien position. You get your single lien position on the property in exchange for monthly payments on a stabilized home, and we service the transaction. So at no cost to the investor, we service that home. If it goes non-performing, we use our staff to rehab and resell the home, likely resell or finance that transaction at no cost, capital call, or disruption of monthly payments. It could in the future, if it ever happens, that could potentially start bearing interest on a deferred contract, but currently we keep paying because we want the investors to ultimately receive and fulfill the passive income that this provides. So that's lot 12. Lot 69 is a performing note in Silvercrest Opportunity Fund, our Reg D 506C accredited investor fund. This is located in the Tempe market. We talked about this last week, and it is potentially still available. Lot 69, 4-bedroom, 2-bath, complete rehab. Actually, in this property, I think we put $90,000 into this unit, virtually remanufacturing the home. It's a performing seasoned note in Silvercrest Opportunity Fund, one of 30 positions in my portfolio, and someone could buy this today outside of our portfolio and hold it within theirs for $102,260. pending a up-to-date balance, right? Because that is a principal and interest payment. Depending on when you do this transaction, we could get you an updated balance at $102,000, about paying $1,274 a month, $1,274.61 a month for a 20-year term. And this was done about 6 months ago. So the buyer borrower has been performing throughout that time and is now a seasoned note for an investor to potentially acquire at $102,000 and a $2,000 transaction fee. Why is there a $2,000 transaction fee on a seasoned note? Because there's proof. The minute that a note has foreseeable proof of payment, proof of monthly distribution, proof of amortization and servicing, right, and the transaction was done correctly, it now becomes higher value of an asset. So we've implemented a $2,000 transaction fee for $104,260 pending an update in unpaid balance, paying $1,274.61, which was originated on a 20-year contract. That is immediately available. That's one of a few, inadvertently, if a investor was just wanting to set it and forget it, that's a fund investment where I take these notes that I've been holding in my portfolio and I give you a per unit owner share in Silvercrest Opportunity Fund. You don't have to service the transaction. You get paid virtually like buying a CD in the bank, but you make triple the interest on that investment. And that is a viable option for IRAs. In addition, say you were wanting some additional hedge, some less operation, and you find yourself blessed to be accredited, you could invest today at a 10% interest only payment for a 1-year term paid monthly, or a 12% interest only return paid quarterly for a 3-year term. And that's a $50,000 minimum. We could help someone participate with $50,000 up to $1 million and start earning interest in as little as a 30-day program. Lot 20, Pueblo Mesa. I think we talked about this one last week as well. That's actually Serena Guajardo in the video. She's our executive sales agent. Serena has a blossoming TikTok online. Feel free to Google, either Google or search her on TikTok. She's getting hundreds of thousands of views selling manufactured housing. Lot 20 sold for $120,000. The unpaid balance is $109.69, $109,069.26. Their monthly payment is $1,361.66, $1,361.66, drafted on a origination of a 20-year term, and ultimately been performing for over 6 months, a seasoned note investment for someone to acquire today for $111,069 in exchange for First-Lien recorded on title and a monthly payment of $1,361. The total interest on a contract like this received for $109,000. If you go on a mortgage calculator, 109, come on. $109,000 here on Carl's mortgage calculator, and I click the summary option. If I hold this note for the full term, my initial acquisition was $109,000 round. The total interest received over the payment term of the contract is $216,000. The total payments received is $325,000. I double my money literally with this acquisition with no maintenance, management, insurance, taxes. Say that I did that in an IRA. I wish I had a quick calculation of what a 20-year term. Actually, Nate said it. It was $70,000 over 15 to 20 years. Compounding interest gets you $1.5 million. I think that was the math. So you could do that today. Literally change your trajectory of your retirement savings with a single acquisition. This is quite literally the description and definition of financial freedom within these transactions, in combination with an IRA, using creative financing, and providing a need out in the market. One of the biggest needs in the nation happens to be right here in my backyard in Arizona, the highest condensed environment of manufactured housing, and ultimately walking through the footsteps in a Warren Buffett investment strategy. Lot 64 here today, Winter Cove. I showed you the pre-rehab photos last week. So here it is, actually, the pre-rehab photos. Let's see if I can click around. Has a central AC unit, was a 2-bed, 1-bath manufactured home in Winter Cove in the Mesa Market off major cross streets of McKellips and Country Club. This 2-1 sold at $60,000, or actually it was $59,500. They put $5,000 down and had an unpaid balance of $54,548 in this now rehabbed property. So that was the pre-rehab. Here's the rehab. Painted the exterior of the home, and we can send you the full collateral file upon your solidification of interest. Remember, just put your lot number, email address, and requesting collateral file. What does a full collateral file look like, Sonny?
It has before and after pictures. It has a copy of the title. It has all of the borrower's information, including their pay stubs, tax returns, copy of their ID, the loan application that they filled out, the Dodd-Frank compliance certificate information, all the truth in lending disclosures. It has their taxes and insurance, homeowners insurance. It has, I think that might be it.
You'll have to see for yourself. So comment today.
A lot of information.
That's one of the benefits of joining these meetings opposed to just watching online. And request collateral files. So we appreciate you being here today. That's lot 64 in Winter Cove. In addition to our lending and manufactured housing strategies, I detailed last week lightly about
the credit report. Forgot the credit report.
We missed one item for the collateral file. We do run credit. That's important. But I brought up last week our projects at 1318 Cedar Street and 1849 Hayden Lane. These are pad split transactions that we have consummated. This is the one that'll come available in about a year from now in the Tempe market, where we'll facilitate midterm rental strategy and have now 22 bedrooms. So see that, our vlog 148, where we talk literally strategy about how to turn this 3-bed, 2-bath, 3,000 square foot structure into 10-bed, 7 bathrooms in the Tempe market to charge about $8,000 to $1,000 per room. So 1318 East Cedar. I think I thought I had another video for that, but 1318. Let me see if I can find this real quick. Has a video of our walkthrough and ultimately some more photos. Here it is, actually right here. I'm tripping. So these photos are of the interior of the property. I think we had granite installed the other day, but we've tiled all the flooring. We turned I think it was a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, single-family home with 2 additional structures into 12 beds, 3 kitchens, and like 5 bathrooms, I think it is. So here's the interior of the property, and we will now go for rentals here in the next 30 days. Why am I bringing this up? Well, affordable housing is one of the biggest needs in the nation. Affordable homeownership, not only, but also affordable rentals. And if you've been to Arizona Real Estate Investors Association, you've been introduced likely to the Pad Split Strategy, who is a tech platform, and they operate midterm rentals and marketing for markets just like this, homes just like this, and they fill them to 90% occupancy within the Arizona market. We were looking at a couple other transactions here in the Valley, but these are actually going live. We own it. The construction is now finishing on this 12-bedroom unit, and we'll be offering a investor a option to participate, whether helping us refinance this transaction with a private loan, willing to extend credit at like an 8% rate on 80% loan to value, or ultimately sell it into the fund with an equity and debt strategy. We have yet to fully make that decision. But at 12 bedrooms and $900 a month, that's like $9,000 a month in cash flow on a single family property with 12 rooms, one location. So say it was 900 times 12 rooms is $10,000 a month times 12. Your total cash flow a year is $129,000 on a single property. And we will self-manage this. So with our bells and whistles of not only just being the lender, we're not just the lender. We have our full operation, 5 in management, 7 in sales, about 10 in rehab, and now a new roofing and construction partner to be able to make it happen at the end of the day. Very excited about this project. That'll start renting hopefully sometime in the next 30 days. And then 1849 Hayden Lane, like I detailed, vlog 148. So go check that out. If you're at all interested and want to participate, reaching out via phone is important to get a little bit more interest and ultimately, build some repertoire. We do business on the phone at the end of the day. So would love to hear from you. That's at 602-888-2274. We have multiple different sales staff available. My YouTube has 1,100 videos on it. I've been doing this about 2 years, and the masterminds go live on YouTube, and that's where they're categoried. So Facebook, I think, deletes after 30 days. But we have all kinds of different blogs, some interviews with industry magnates and experts. I've had Nate Hare interviewed at Azria. He's been on the podcast. He's been on the Mastermind. So happy to have Nate here, to say the least, and just continue to build the relationship. For those of you that don't know, Win Mobile Homes is how we originate these transactions. The largest now dealer of manufactured housing in Arizona, hands down. Wide variety across Mesa, Tempe, Phoenix, Glendale, Apache Junction. We have a licensed mortgage officer on staff, quite literally becoming the bank before you. Mobile Mailbox Money is where you sign up to learn more and ultimately maybe even check out the books that I have on Amazon. Mobile Mailbox Money Secured, describing the passive investment strategy, or maybe you're an operator looking to replicate this strategy in another market. You could buy a $10 book and get a little bit closer to doing that. And Silvercrest Opportunity Fund is our accredited investor fund. Reg D 506C, paying 10% returns for a 1-year term paid monthly, or 12% for a 3-year term paid quarterly, in an income-oriented investment strategy, investing like Warren Buffett. We have the Investor Lounge coming up with Azria. Shout out to Arizona Real Estate Investors Association. And they don't have a monthly meetup this month, the second Monday of the month. So Silvercrest, who's now the main sponsor of Arizona Real Estate Investors Association, is having a cigar night on the 30th. It's a Thursday at 6:00. We'd love to see you there, and ultimately just kind of kick back a little bit, get to know us a little bit more. I started a cigar club with a couple other affluent business professionals here in Arizona through my Business Network International, the Stickman Cigar Club. So the Stickmen have about 27 members currently in our cigar club. So I'm a big cigar aficionado. I love smoking cigars over a meeting. Just it allows us to get to know each other a little bit more and kind of, kick back a little bit. I think there's a lot of stuffy meetups and things of that nature. This is not that. We're here to just kind of get to know each other, rub shoulders a little bit, and just talk about the week. And would love to have Nate out there as well. I think I invited him to come by. So, a great opportunity. Talked to Mike Del Pre, who owns Azria. He said there's already 20 people pre-registered. So it may be a little bit bigger than what I'm thinking. Magnum's is a kind of a small place, but we'll just figure it out. It is a speakeasy bar, so you could get your cocktails and have a stick at the end of the day. In addition, Nate Hare and Directed have the Alternative Asset Summit actually coming up. Nate, maybe if you could just detail the Alt Summit.
Yeah, we do this event once a year. It's a 2.5-day event. It's great networking, great education. We talk about, different alternative investments and investment strategies. We talk about wealth building strategies. This year, we're going to have it in Costa Mesa, California. If you're interested, October 22nd, 23rd. It's just a great way to get educated and meet other investors across the country that are investing heavily in alternative investments or experts in their field. I did want to mention one thing, Alden, is Azria doesn't have a main monthly meeting for July, but August 10th, the main speaker is yours truly. I'm going to be talking on main stage and doing an hour presentation on small dollar IRA investments with big profit. So it's one of my best presentations. If you like the examples I gave you in 15 minutes, you're going to love the ones that I give in an hour. So all different creative strategies that take very little money in a retirement plan, but grow completely tax-free inside of it. So make sure you guys come out and check out Azria main monthly meeting August 10th.
It just goes to show the importance of being in the room. Being in a room just like this, being at Azria, joining a Business Network International, because you never know what kind of resources you're going to need at the end of the day and what you'll learn. You learn something new every day if you take a step forward, and take a little bit, out of your comfort zone. Go try and meet new people that are in your industry doing what you want to do. That's really the definition of achieving success, because it's not luck. It's not allowing there an opportunity to pass by where you could potentially get one step further. And that's what's achieved at Azria. I've been attending Azria for probably 9-10 years, and we've literally built our business off the back of relationships, found the investment strategy at Arizona Real Estate Investors Association. In addition to the conferences, going through directed IRA conferences, we've met multiple investors over the years at their conferences. And with Business Network International, just to kind of pref a little bit about BNI, I have the industry category for manufactured housing in Business Network International, the connectors. We meet at Orange Tree Golf Course on Wednesday. Why is that important? Well, it's important to be in the business, not just hiding behind a screen, but ultimately with the tentacles out in the environment. The resources that I have are literally unmatched in any other situation, having touches with Azria, having touches with Directed IRA, and touches with Business Network International, in addition to doing this stuff online. The proof is in the pudding. Does anyone have any questions for Nate as we close out the meeting here today? I'm going to just let it breathe here for a minute. We did talk very quickly today.
Yeah, I would say if you guys want more information, just go to directedira.com. We do a weekly webinar every Tuesday at 12. So if you're interested, all the recordings of all the previous webinars are up on the website. I've got one next week where we're going to talk about investing IRAs into multifamily apartment buildings. So we do a lot of effort in the education space because we don't sell investments, but we like to teach people, how it works. And sometimes we bring on special guests as well. So just go to directedira.com if you guys want more information or you want to book a call with me.
We had a lot of interaction today, a lot of hearts going in the chat. We do this all for you at the end of the day. All this free education, all this free game. Most people are like, hey, why are you sharing the golden egg? Most people are taught to covet that information. We put it out in the want for transparency, trust, and ultimately to do business, because people do business with the people they know, like, and trust. Currently, we're getting about 100,000 views across our platforms a week. And ultimately, that can, a month. 50,000 a month on my Facebook, and 50,000 on Serena's TikTok. So we're getting pretty good traction across all major platforms. This number was up at 70,000 views when I was posting 5 times a day. And that's really what we're doing. We're blanketing the environment to be able to draw more interest, draw more individuals that want to achieve potential financial freedom. What do we call that? We call that mobile mailbox money. We appreciate y'all being here today. These notes are available. This is the live deal flow market. We had 31 people actually on the Zoom today. We just broke a record. Give yourself a little round of applause. At the end of the day, every potential investment and transaction that takes place on this platform quite literally changes somebody's life. It's not just a transaction to us. We're really making a difference here in the Arizona market, and hopefully you could come join us along the way. We're going to end it with my good friend Conor McGregor in the hospital, detailing why he should have bought some notes.
This knee is killing me. Gotta ice it. But I'll be back, stronger.
Oh, fuck my leg.
He would have been fine if he invested in notes.
Man, I could have bought 5 notes for $500,000 and made $6,000 a month for 20 years.
$5,000 a month, $6,000 a month, $500,000 in acquisition costs. Imagine what 5, 10, 20, even 100 notes could do for your retirement. We appreciate you being here today. We'll see you next time.